Hello and welcome to day 23 of 25 days, 25 skills with for educators with Preeti from I Integrated Parenting, and with me here today is Garima from Authenticity. Today we're going to be reimagining a cornerstone of every school year, which is the parents teachers meeting. Today, we want to talk about how to shift the gears from keeping PTM as a performance review to a partnership conversation. For too long now, PTM has felt more like an audit between parents and teachers, evaluating the report card, making a list of all the weaknesses. It's more of a you versus me, parent versus teacher, where the teacher is making complaints about the child or the parents are making bringing in complaints about what is not being done. What if we flipped that script? What if PTMs were more about a partnership, a safe, respectful space where parents and teachers can figure out how to help the child, and where it is not a space where either feels judged but really supported, not blamed, but a conversation where we can come together for the sake of the child. Instead of just discussing about marks, what if we spoke about the who the child is becoming and what we're creating for them? How can we use the space, the parents teachers meeting, as a place to discover what our shared goals are, what the strengths of the child are, what are the points that the child is struggling with or the parent or the teacher is struggling with, and what kind of support systems that any of us need. This is what we want to be talking about today. These are my initial thoughts, and as we get started, let's get Garima to share her thoughts as well.
Thank you so much, Preeti. Thank you so much for that. You've unpacked a lot of possibilities of what PTMs could be. So I'd love to take a step back and talk about my experience of what PTMs have been
Mm-hmm.
so far, because I've been on both ends, both as a teacher as well as a parent. Um, like you rightly said, for very long, it's been more of a problem unpacking session than a solution oriented sort of a meeting. Um, I see some teachers as well as parents find a lot of joy in belaboring the problem and going really deep in it and exploring all parts of it before they really come to a place of solution. It is definitely it has been positioned as a reprimanding session, as a session where we pull up the child for everything that's going wrong. And very often, I'm sure we've, in our own experience and around in our environment, we've seen PTMs being labeled as a threatening mechanism, right? If you don't do this right, then in the PTM, I'm going to tell your teacher this, or I'm going to tell your parent this. How often in a classroom we've seen a teacher say, "Oh, you call your parents and I'm going to talk to them." Just that tone, just that sentence is very, very loaded, honestly. So it's very important for us to begin at a point where we release the tension from the whole meeting per se. The just method
Absolutely.
of how we do this. This is such a
In
loaded.
fact, when you said that, the first image that comes up is for the child, according to the teacher, the parent is the villain, and according to the parent, the teacher is the villain. And the children are just jammed in between the sandwich.
Yeah,
Like
or
neither
for
way
that
is
matter, the
going
two
to.
of them get together and be a bigger villain. Yeah, because the two
Absolutely.
of
So it's
them are
like
on
ganging
one
up
side.
against the child.
Yeah, exactly. So my point is that number one, there's a very deep need to release tension from this whole concept to begin with, and only when we are open to doing that will we be able to then come to a place where you were giving so many options of how we can foresee this PTP. Definitely, there's need for more collaboration. There is need to release the whole desire to attach your success to the child's performance, be it the teacher or the parent. They proact, they just come with that thought that a parent is a good parent if your child is performing well, a teacher is a good teacher if the child is performing well. So you've already put so much baggage onto that individual. Where is the room to bloom in their own
Mm.
way? There is
And
hardly.
what that brings out is an instant defensiveness on either side. right? One is complaining, the other gets defensive by default.
Correct. And the point is that why? Because we want to shift, we want to pin it up somewhere. The responsibility, the blame game. Somebody needs to be, made accountable for the performance per se, rather than really unpacking and seeing where exactly is it coming from. Very quickly, we want to reach a place where it's like, okay, fine, I did my best, and this is what it is. So so, like I'm saying, number one, it doesn't need to be that loaded, that heavy. Uh, um, uh, Catch up. It can be much easier, much flowing, much more open, and that's what brings to mind the need for curating more spaces beyond PTMs for teacher and parents collaboration to begin with. Where definitely one thing that's very critical is the intent on both fronts. Definitely, and more so on parents. I think on this one we'll have to stress a little more on the, because for a teacher it's a job at the end of the day. The more collaboration he or she gets, better is the progress overall, because it's more holistic in nature. But from a parent participation standpoint, at times, we are to be blamed because we just hand it over to the teacher and then let that ball of energy be this teacher's problem. From food to television exposure to technology immersion to academic success to extracurricular activities and all the preps and stuff, either it is a school teacher problem or a tuition teacher problem and not a parent thing. Whereas the personality of the child is massively driven and drawn and dependent on the way parents show up. One thing that I also bring want to bring in here is, more than fear, respect for the way a teacher is influencing your child's life in general. A very deep sense of connection, gratitude, and inspiration and aspiration built in there. Because I've been in rooms where conversations. So either the teacher is put on a pedestal, that holier than thou, the wise person of the society, and can't do anything wrong kind of a scenario, or somebody who's just doing their job. So what? I pay them and they teach you. We need to, this equation needs to be somewhere in between, where there is a natural degree of gratitude for the teacher, for the degree of influence that this individual has on your child, right? In a house where teachers are given that due respect and love, and are seen as people who are going to influence your child's life for x many years, there the whole attitude towards the institutionalized system is very different. So I would say that it's got to do a lot with the way you approach the whole concept of parents teacher collaboration, and then within that PTM becomes one of the spaces. Where do I want to discuss marks, or do I want to discuss the integrity and social and emotional evolution of my child, or do I want to discuss the extracurricular interests and who is this person becoming? All of those things are only possible when we come from very secure places of being a good enough parent and a good enough teacher, doing whatever best we can do in interest of this child.
This also raises the point that a lot of these conversations are between the parent and the teacher alone. What about the child themselves?
Hmm.
Why not involve the child in this discussion?
Hmm.
See, at the
Hmm.
end of the day, we want the child to be more
Correct.
responsible. We
Correct.
want the child to own their progress, their goal,
Yeah.
their learning, all of that. And yet we treat the child like it's a puppet or a doll. Okay, are you going to, key this, or are you going to be repairing this bit? But it's not a mechanical thing, right? So why not involve the student themselves? Now, a partnership between parents and teachers, yes, but this partnership is for whom? It's for the child, right? We're not on two sides of the fence, we are on the same side, right? So that is the first realization. And second is, it's not you and me versus the child, right? It's you, me, and the child together.
Hmm.
Each of us has a role to play.
Correct.
What are the things that I am doing? What are the things that the teacher is doing? What are the things that the child is doing? who needs what kind of support here can be very well a three-way conversation, not even a two-way conversation. And I think that will also make it a lot more emotionally intelligent, so to say. Student reflections can have a really big insight into what
100%.
is helping them and what is not, what they are needing and what they are not. There are sometimes, as parents, we go overboard because we really want to help the child, but the kind of help we are offering is actually not what is helping the child. And the same applies for a teacher, right? Teachers, there are some teachers I know who go really the extra mile to support children in their classroom. But is that the kind of support the child needs? Right? How about we involve the child in this conversation?
Yeah, and
That
Preeti, yeah, and as you're saying that, what I'm realizing is that, it's so much more difficult to back off a little. As an adult, we are always, there is this deep desire to solve for the child's problem and, be the wiser one, give advice, be in that position of power and take control and, drive, be in the driver's seat. It takes so much more effort to back off a little and let the child solve for whatever ABC is the situation. Another thing is that because I've worked in the corporate for a decade and a half, this skill of self awareness and self reflection is super imperative and useful in your adult life as well, right? Because
absolutely.
when you are doing your reviews and your appraisals and you're charting your career graph, right? At that time you asked to come with your own reflection of where you are, what you could do better, and how could you take the next step in a more efficient manner, how do you go from point A to point B. And suddenly a child who's never been given that kind of autonomy on their own decisions is asked to do this in their adult life. If you've not been given that independence, it's a muscle that's dormant. Then the more you exercise this ability to self reflect and be aware, the more
Mm.
it grows. Now I also understand you can't start doing that for a toddler who is yet not fully functional in terms of personal hygiene or personal functionality, but the sooner you start developing this muscle in your child, the
That's
better.
true. I think what you're saying about this pulling back is really hard, is because how much do you pull back is a very subjective thing, and there is no fixed formula. Many times for parents and teachers, for that matter, when we begin, like I think yesterday also I mentioned this, right? So the psychological size of the child versus the adult at a very young age, let's say pre-KG, and the child is 2.5, 3, from that age, is there's a massive difference. The child feels tiny in front of the adult. Now, as the child grows, the net difference, psychological bigness, is actually going down. Their dependency is going down, but somewhere for the adult, they're still looking at the child as a child. Then at what point do you start withdrawing and how much do you withdraw? That is something that I'm sure is a huge question mark for many parents. And this is definitely based on the kind of conversations I've had, even when I'm talking to teachers. When, let's say, a first standard child, sometimes children even in UKG are able to take care of their own, going to the bathroom and stuff like that. Right? By the time they're in second standard, they're definitely able to take care of a lot more things than in the first standard. So at what point do you withdraw how much? How
Would
would you
you
do this?
carry on, yes.
Definitely based on your interaction with the child. That is all the more reason we need to involve children in these reflections.
True, but
So
along
that
with
you
that,
get
would you
your idea.
also agree that it's also dependent on my own self concept and my own
Yes.
self security? Because okay, fine, at that age, it's more about the functionality and how much do I assist versus let go. That's less of decision making. That's more of assistance.
Hmm.
In your day to day and smooth running of things.
Not necessarily. In fact, even for first standard, second standard, there are certain decisions that the child has to take in terms of their involvement in, let's say, homework, screen time. How much of screen time do I do, or how much of outdoor play do I get, as against the amount of time I'm
Yeah,
putting in?
and that's where I think negotiation skills and all of those
Exactly.
start happening, right? And your
Exactly.
ability to get away with a tantrum, your ability to convince somebody in
Hmm.
a smart way, and take it. I
Absolutely.
get that, but my point is, going back to the concept of collaboration versus competition
Hmm.
in parents and teachers, right? If I am secure and say, I have a degree of safety and connection with the parent, where I know that if I give X kind of leeway, then also it's okay. And if I'm a little stricter, then also I'm understood. At every step, I don't feel tested and my decision is not questioned. Because so many times and this is more by experience, that I'm sitting in a parents teacher meeting where I see the two of them, the stakeholder group, both teachers as well as parents, being anti
Hmm.
rather than be on the same page, right? Where in a subtle way, parent is trying to tell the teacher that maybe the degree of freedom that you're giving is too much, or the degree of control that you're implying is too. Somewhere both of them are telling each other how to do their jobs,
Hmm.
which I really feel that if we go a notch higher, honestly, if there are more team building exercises, more psychological and emotional work on bonding on both ends that's done with
Hmm.
these two stakeholder groups, that's far better for the child, because so many times the child also gets away with a lot because the parents don't respect these teachers. Yeah, whatever, yeah, they're doing their jobs, and the teachers is like, okay, every parent is complaining, there's no point. My point is that a lot falls through the cracks if
Hmm.
there is a degree of evaluation and judgment that's laid from each side on the other side constantly. Rather, if it's like, okay, fine, like whatever we may do with the child, and this has also got to do with what we were discussing yesterday. Is it a authoritarian sort of a control freak sort of a teacher? Is it a permissive or a restorative? What is your dominant style? And if that agrees with the parent, then it's far more challenging for the student to get away with things, because
Hmm.
that these two guys are talking. This good cop, bad cop.
Absolutely.
They can team
Got
up.
that, got that, got that. Actually, in fact, this is something that I have been having a conversation with pretty much all the schools that I've been talking to, where we want to specifically dedicate activities or days where the intent is to bring parents and teachers on the same page,
Together.
right?
Yeah.
So right now the kind of activities that are already happening in schools is where the school has a certain agenda of how the child should be treated, and what should be done with the child, and what are the best ways to increase academic performance, to send the child at a certain time dressed like this, whatever. No, they have a whole list of rules. And one day in a year, which is the start of the year, they call all the parents and say, see, you got to do this. If you miss this, it's going to be a problem. Your child is going to have a consequence. That is all is the communication that happens. After that, for the rest of the year, what's happening is, like you said, either party is blaming the other.
But this is really surprising. Is that like a standard throughout? Because you've been telling me, like at least in Delhi NCR where I'm based, and you're in another metro, right? It's there's a stark difference, because here there
Mm,
is the degree of communication is so much that at times one gets a little uh, bothered about 200 emails coming from school where they want us to collaborate on so many different things. To simplify all of that process, we've created something called PRGs, parents representative
mm,
groups, where
mm,
across the grade there are 7-10 people who willingly offer to be the
mm,
representatives of the larger 200, 300 parents that are there in that grade. And any communication that happens goes through this channel, where from your meal planning to your sports activity to your extracurricular to your academic bent of mind to what events and timelines are we going to adhere to, what's going to be the calendar of and the frequency of meet and greet, everything is discussed collaboratively. Now, I would agree to the fact that it's way more intense in younger years, where your child also, you have to work extra to hold attention with the child and let the child fall in love with the school and the whole way the system works and stuff like that. And I've also seen parents of younger children be more invested in the way it's, especially so before the third grade and after the ninth grade, the suddenly the interest intensifies. Why? Because this is like really the foundation years, and those are the years that are the pivotal years where you're going to finally then move from a career perspective. Yeah, in between it's a little lukewarm, but this whole PRG concept has really solved for a lot of
This issue.
concerns.
Hmm. So my understanding is that there are a specific set of, let's say, elite schools that perhaps have this system, but that is not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not the norm, at least here in Bangalore,
Okay.
right? Are you telling me that's the norm across the board,
Pretty much.
irrespective of?
Pretty much all progressive new age schools, 100%. It's got very little to do with the eliteness of the school, more about the pedagogy. If it's a progressive, open, new age sort of curriculum. Also, here with the IB board and the diversity of boards becoming like really prevalent, what's
There
happening
is
is
no.
need for counseling and interaction is very, very high, because this pivotal decision that do I want to stick to my CBSC, do I want to go for ICSE, do I want to do the IB board, what, how, why, this, that, the conversation is so much more, because at least in in the groups I move around in and the kind of institutions I'm attached to right now, there is a very dominant conversation of uh, what curriculum do we really want to follow. So
Very
what I've
interesting.
what I've seen is this whole thing becomes more serious when it's a more where the discussion has more repercussions or consequences, or what is a positive word for it? Both of these are negative words.
Consequences.
Implication. Yeah, it has a
Sure.
possible implication on your career, etc. The conversation intensifies. Yes, but there are still, like I was telling you, there are softer things also. For example, digitization is something that's become really big, right? So my own child, for that matter, since sixth grade, majority of the work is happening on the tablet. Everything is becoming more digital, which I'm okay with, because that's how the world around us is working. While it's not compulsory, but 90% of the students use the tablet. There is still exception of those 10% who do not want their child to be exposed to that, and that's a choice. I don't know how it impacts from an experience lens, but then because you are introducing devices at such a young age, the need for cybersecurity counseling, the need for checks and balances becomes so much more, right? And there are these sessions that they do, then there are these author interactions that they will do, then there will be once in a while this big personality coming from the corporate world and talking to children. All of these are open to parents to come and see as well. From a participation standpoint, 100% for working parents, it's very, very challenging to really be present. So a lot of things are also moving online then. But I definitely see a persistent effort to keep parents involved, and keep them in good books also, because there is definitely a voice. Parents do have a voice in majority of the schools here.
I think it would be brilliant at this point to also invite the audience, other educators who are watching this. What are your thoughts on this? What are your ideas? What is, according to you, the response of parents and involvement of parents in the schoolwork or in dealing with the children? Where do you see that, and what are the efforts, or what are the ways that your school or organization is trying to bring parents on board with the organization as well? If you've got ideas, What is it that you do in your school? Please do share that in the comments. And I'm sure there are a lot of schools that can benefit from that, and we can learn from each other as well. I think this
Yeah,
is
in
a
fact,
very good
because you're
point of
talking about
view.
innovative ideas, Preeti, something that just struck me is recently I also saw our school send us a parent uh, some internship program for relatively senior students, 10th 12th graders, where the whole the parent community was sent this circular that if you work in an organization that's open to taking young interns, we'd love for our parents to offer such opportunities to the
Mm,
students. Now, that's again a very interesting way of collaborating and
yeah.
involving parents. Then, in the younger years, in fact, when my child was like really young, much younger, third grade and below, I remember, they are also open to teachers coming in and working, interning with the school for a week, 10 days. So, for example, 2 weeks you just want to go there and be a support teacher to the homeroom teacher, you can do
Mm,
that, or you want to just go and do like a storytelling session with them, or you want to do something else with them. The whole parent partnership program is pretty
mm,
solid in the school, and they are open to innovative thoughts and ideas of how you'd want to partner. So while we are inviting a lot of thoughts from the audience, these are few things that our schools also do
very
here
good.
very efficiently. You want to
Okay.
touch on the whole orientation conversation that we were having?
Orientation conversation. Yes, yes. I think that's where I started this, right? I think I did mention about that, right at the start, where the schools are giving a set of rules and stuff like that. Is
Ah,
that what you're
okay,
talking
yeah.
about? So
Yeah, yeah.
I did talk about
Talk
that.
about that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, right. So I think somewhere the focus of, if we had to come back to PTMs itself, the parent teacher meeting, yes, like you said, it can also be a value add and not just about reviewing and auditing the child's performance, academic performance alone, but more of a social, emotional, academic well-being, what their interests are, what their personality is shaping up to be, and overall experience of the child in the school, of the parent in the school, of the teacher, experience of the teacher with the child, of the child, because of course the child is a product of what they're bringing in from the home space, right? So these conversations would perhaps be more honoring of the whole child, right?
True.
So in a certain sense, I think what we are kind of bringing this down to is how can we make PTMs less transactional and more holistic and transformational. Right? So
Yeah.
that is the conversation that we are bringing in today. I think this would also be a great opportunity for teachers to understand the home environment. If the child is going through something, parents are going through a separation process, or they're moving from one house to another. There's the new child coming in. So those kind of things also that will impact the child is something that would be helpful for the teacher to know. And if there is something that's happening in the school, like there's a child in this class who's being bullied, it may not be your child, but knowing or witnessing bullying in the class can also have its own impact, right? So kind of keeping each other updated of the overall wellness temperature of the home environment and the school environment is also something that can be considered, right?
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Garima, as we come to a close?
I think we've unpacked the whole conversation end to end, right? How we want this to not be just a loaded meeting, which is about me versus you, be and across the three stakeholders, be it parents,
Absolutely.
teachers,
Yeah.
or student. It is not about pinning the whole blame of performance, non-performance on any one person. It's about coming together, collaborating, and looking at ways in which you can deepen the connection to begin with. When your
Partnership.
connection is deep enough, when there is participation from all parties, then I think that makes for a very fertile ground to take the conversation ahead on, and honestly let these be moments of connection rather than moments of competition, right? Which should basically create a fertile ground for future collaboration. That's pretty much the long and short of what we really wanted to highlight today.
Absolutely. So, pretty much to summarize all that we have spoken about, is we want to remember that parent teacher meetings are, they hold a lot of immense potential, and it doesn't have to be just about report cards. It can be a powerful opportunity to build bridges between the home and school partnership. It need not be a me versus them, but more of a collaborative we of the parent, teacher, and even the student for that matter, to discover insights and to work together to really create a space for growth for the child, right? So by reimagining, reframing PTMs as hurdles to huddles, team huddles, more like team huddles, I think every child can be supported, understood, and be truly seen for who they are. And we can look at not just the academic development, but also holistic growth of the child as whole individuals. And that is what today has been about. So thank you so much. It's been a
Well said,
wonderful
Preeti. Great.
conversation, really enlightening. And I look forward to our conversation tomorrow. That is going to be specifically for teachers in the context of their career growth. So don't miss that tomorrow. If you have any particular thoughts, any questions, please put that down here in the comments. Without fail, what are the ways that you in your school are doing to bring together parents and teachers? Please do share your thoughts and ideas with us here in the comments. That would be helpful. Thank you. Adios. Thank you so much for staying with us
Thank you
this
so
long.
much. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.